As it currently stands, Bernie Sanders won North Dakota, and not much else. He won. Biden won Michigan, I think by like 16 points, which was large. Mississippi, he blew it out of the park. Missouri, he had a dominant win. Idaho, he had a good win there. And now Washington State is not done reporting. They're 77% in as since I last looked, and Joe Biden is slightly ahead. But as I've been looking at the numbers, it's been like back and forth. So I don't know. It might be Joe Biden, might be Bernie Sanders, but it seems like they're going to split the delegates pretty evenly there. So Bernie Sanders, he forewent his speech last night, flew back to Burlington, Vermont, and he gave a speech in the early afternoon, and I watched it live, and it was an excellent speech. It was, he acknowledged the loss. He acknowledged that the path for him to get the nomination is narrowing very much, that it might be closed very soon. He was very much acknowledging all the truths of all the realities of the primary as it stands right now. However, the thing that he mentioned was the difference between the electability and the platform. So whereas voters are going in saying, and Bernie said that voters were telling him this specifically. So they're going in and they're saying Joe Biden, they're afraid that Joe Biden is more electable than Donald Trump, or more electable than Bernie Sanders, and then henceforth against Donald Trump. So there's that electability portion. But what Bernie was saying, he pointed to the polls, the exit polls, and saying that, you know what, though, in terms of the platform, the people... My mic just fell. I apologize for any unpleasant sounds that caused. But he was saying, yes, people were going in and saying Joe Biden is more electable, but they were coming out with the exit polls saying that Bernie Sanders' platform is the platform that the Democratic voters want to see in the party this election. In addition to that, he pointed to the fact that he is doing extremely well. He is winning with young voters, that he's winning with voters in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. I wonder how he fares with people in their 50s, but I guess it's 60s and up where Joe Biden is winning. And I think that Bernie Sanders said that, okay, look, I understand the realities of this campaign right now. I understand that I'm losing, but what are you going to do, Joe? This is I like to call it the what are you going to do, Joe speech. He said, what are you going to do about attracting those voters who are overwhelmed, the young voters of this country, who are overwhelmingly on my side? What are you going to do, Joe, about dealing with with health care in this country like most voters want? What are you going to do, Joe, about student debt? What are you going to do, Joe, about public education into college? What are you going to do, Joe, about about the wealth tax, about all the policy proposals that have the overwhelming support of Democratic voters, but that are not part of Joe Biden's platform? Joe Biden doesn't have a platform. He never did. What do we know about what he wants to do with health care in this country? All he says is he just wants to add to Obamacare. But what does that mean? I go on the exchange every year to buy my health insurance. All right, what is it? You're going to add a public option? What is it that you're going to do? How are you going to pay for it, Joe? How do you plan on doing it? You know, why does Bernie Sanders, why is he the only one that has to answer for it? And he has answered for it. He's been very transparent about all the ways that he plans on financing all of his plans. But Joe Biden doesn't have any plans. So Bernie said he's going to go on to the debate on Sunday, and he plans on asking him directly. And I think that is exactly what Bernie Sanders needs to do. Look, everything's stacked up against him. He is in a position where he knows he's most likely going to lose this nomination, but he very well understands his power. And that power is with his supporters, who he knows are not going to go easily to vote for Joe Biden. I think he's being very realistic about it. Look, if Bernie Sanders were to turn around tomorrow, look, he could have today conceded, knowing the realities of this race. But I think he understands his supporters better than anyone. And so he knows that we're not going to just, bend the knee for the establishment and just go to them for no reason. He's telling the establishment they have to offer us something in order to get us to support Joe Biden. I drove up to New Hampshire to knock on doors for Bernie Sanders. I made phone calls. I'm not going to go knock on fucking doors in New Hampshire for Joe Biden. New Hampshire is a swing state. He's going to want me up there. What are you going to do, Joe, to get me to go up and knock on doors for you in New Hampshire? Because you know what? Polls have been coming out, and it looks pretty close between you and Donald Trump in New Hampshire. It's pretty uncomfortably close. Because you know what? It seems, and this is just my prediction, I say Donald Trump beats Joe Biden in New Hampshire. Say he could beat him in Nevada. Donald Trump sees that he could win in these places, and Joe Biden needs progressives on his side. The Democratic Party strategy of saying, oh, we're going to pivot to the center and to the right. We're going to get never Trump Republicans instead of this this large and fervent group of progressive voters. Progressives who, if we fell in love with a campaign, trust me, we'd be out there and knocking on doors, talking to people. I have the Bernie bumper sticker. I have the Bernie pin on my gym bag. My friends at the gym, I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These guys don't care about politics, but they see the pin on my bag. They're like, oh, Bernie Sanders, cool guy. They're like, or they're like, Bernie Sanders, what's up with him? I kind of like him. They ask about his platform. What is going to get me to put a freaking Joe Biden pin on my bag and go to my jiu-jitsu class? Right now, from what Joe Biden is offering, nothing. So